So in this video we will talk about a Linux Privilege Escalation technique, mainly SUID binary. So SUID binary is a special type of permission that a user can set to a binary. Suppose root user set a SUID bit to a binary. So what will happen? For that, if any normal user run that binary, it will run as root privilege. So how can we find SUID binary? There are so many techniques available to find SUID binary. So this was my command. I always use this. Mainly find command used to search from the root directory, and SUID bit permission is 4000 and type F. It means we're looking for any file that has permission set to 4000. So here in this box, as you can see, these binaries has SUID bit set. Now from that, how can we find that something unusual or suspicious binary are available? So first you can run this to your local machine to check what user. Look, these are normal binaries that are normally stay SUID bit set by default. But so when you check with this from this box binary, you will saw that this was unusual. Python normally does not have SUID bit set by default, so someone has created set SUID binary on Python. So let's check this permission of Python. So as you can saw that this was owned by root and it has S means SUID bit set. So we found a binary that has SUID bit set. So how can we exploit this thing to get privilege escalate our privilege? So from the last video I said about a website that GTFOBins. Again we can refer to that website. So here we can search for Python exploit. So it says there are a couple of techniques available. Now this time we know that we does not have pseudo privileges, we have SUID privileges. Let's check the exploit. So this is the exploit. Now we mainly need the second part, as first one was only to install that. So let's copy and paste the code to check can I get root user or not. So wait a minute. Now let's paste this code. Now here it says no such a file. Why this error occur? Now the issue is in this directory there is no Python file or called a file that Python we are trying to run, right? So the issue is we now in our box we want to run Python and this was the code mainly. So /python, then this it indicate the system that we need to run / means Python file, and this was this argument, which is not right. We want to run this code through Python. So how can we do this? In our box the Python was set in this directory, so we need to use absolute path. So how can we modify the exploit? So first this was the absolute path of Python, then we use the rest of the code to exploit this misconfiguration. Now let's copy, let's clear it fast. Now here you can see hash sign, it means I am root. root. So for this exploitation, you first need to know the difference between this and dot slash python. So using this, we are telling the system that we want to run a file which is called python, but this is not our priority, or this is not what we want to do. Mainly what we can want to do is want to run this python code through python. That's why we use the full path and we exploit this misconfiguration to get root shell. So let's look at another example of SUID binary, how I can abuse that. So let's check in this box how many SUID binary set. So mainly to compare this from box and to your normal machine, if you compare one by one, then you will easily realize which binary are not by default provided and which are created or set SUID bit manually. So if I paste the same code and check from my box to this box, we can easily identify the unusual binary which has SUID bit set. Let's wait for a bit. Still looking for all the binaries. Hold on a second. So as you can, I already run this command before starting the video, so I know that here base 64 is unusual. Someone set a SUID bit to base 64 for manually. So let's check for exploit in GTFOBins now. So here this is the SUID exploit, mainly this code. Now here you can look that there is no possible way that you can exploit base 64 to get root shell directly. Now here what you can do is you can only read sensitive file or all file which might not accessible to you as a normal user. Okay, so let's see how we can exploit this thing. So to exploit base 64 as a SUID, first we need to set a file which one we need to read. So first let's check, can we have a permission on shadow file. As you can see, I do not have permission to read shadow file. Let's check for etc passwd. As you can see, I have permission to read passwd, but I don't have permission to read shadow file. So let's try to read shadow file through base 64. Now we'll set file equal to etc/shadow. Now We set the file. Now we need to run the exploit properly. So it says this was the exploit, but again we need to use absolute path for base 64. So first paste this, not, hold on. So first paste this, then use this. Now using this base 64 command, we encode the whole shadow file through base 64. Let's check if it work. So it's work. Now as you can see, encode, and in the meantime we also decode through base 64 in the same time, and we can read the shadow file content. So mainly to exploit base 64 through SUID binary, first we need to set a file, which file we need to read, like file equals to something. Then we need to run exploit through according to the GTFOBins. Note that if we run this thing dot slash, then it will give error again, because there will be no file called dot slash base 64 which we will need to run. Mainly we want to run main base 64. Through base 64 we need to run this. That's why we use this code. I hope you understand. Thank you.